when it comes to wanting to do something cool and new instead of doing the thing that other people do, right? It's a shortcut. I try to make it easier for me so I don't actually have to learn how to play piano. I want to do something different.
Right.
And as you know, I got the mallet station for Betty, which is an expensive piece of equipment. Um, and she is not interested in using it anymore. So I could do the Radio Shack keyboard and learn how to play the piano, or I'm going to take you off of where I've got you and I'm going to flip around here just to show you. Or what I could do is what I ended up doing.
For those listening at home, Paul is now showing me
So,
his music room. Hey, look, there's the mallet
so
station.
I, so I put the mallet station here,
It's an
and what
electronic
I've
mallet
got
station.
is I've got the mallet station running out from here up to this little box here.
I don't see the
This little
box. Oh,
box,
okay. Little
this little box here.
USB, oh, MIDI expander. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and then I've got this running to power. I've got this MIDI cord running into this right here, which is running into the Micro Brute, which is a synthesizer. No presets, right? It's all analog, so I have to redo all of these dials whenever I want to change a sound.
Keeping it old school.
And it's not polyphonic, so I can only hit one note at a time. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm hitting a note on here, and it's going through all this stuff and making the sound here, which then comes down here to the looper.
Jesus Christ.
And so if I want to play chords, instead of learning how to play
No
piano
data.
chords,
I need no data.
so instead of learning to play piano chords, I am layering chords on a looper over and over and over again. And I have this microphone hooked up to the looper. So anytime that it cycles through the loop, it adds more line noise because the mic, even though I'm not saying anything to it, is still picking up the ambient sound. Uh, all of these are problems that I'm just causing myself. They're not anything that really I should have to be dealing with. But I feel like anyone can play the piano. I'm the only one with this setup. Or probably other people have setups like it, but I'm the only one that's
It
doing
seems
this.
kind
So
of
I feel like
complicated, and you're the only one who knows how it's set up.
it's complicated, but it's also fun, I think. That's the thing. Now, when I get enough money, I can replace the microbrute with a polyphonic synthesizer, right? And then I can hit two things at once. But for right now, I you notice I'm using timpani mallets also instead of the regular mallets that one might use for a mallet station. And the reason is because
I
they've got
did
wrist
not notice that
ties on
because
them.
I've no idea what kind of mallets are used on a
Oh,
mallet station.
so so this is a timpani mallet,
Yeah.
and I've got these loops here, and so I can put these loops on,
So you don't toss
and
it.
that way, well, I don't toss it, but also I can just, if I need to adjust a knob, I can just drop it, adjust the knob,
Yeah.
and then flip it back up and continue to play. And also, this is the other thing, because of the setup, I'm not playing fast, right? I'm really usually just hitting one note and then continuing going. If I had somebody else to play with, like if you and I were playing, this setup would be fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because I just like play around and you'd play around and it'd be fun. Uh, at this point, with my setup that I've got here, it's not really fun for it's fun for me to play, right? I'm having a good time, but it's not really interesting to listen to because I'm hitting a note,
Right. I mean,
right?
that was
And
my
to
question is
build,
like you, with all of that, do you enjoy it? Does it provide you
oh
joy?
yeah, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. But and this is what I'm going to talk to my therapist about my next therapy session. Um, I feel like I should be doing it differently. That's the only thing that's not causing me joy. but there's no one that I'm doing that. It's just me. I'm just playing around.
Yeah.
So this weird thing of, well, I'm not really doing it the way I'm supposed to, isn't
The way
true
you're
for
supposed to.
anyone
Come
but
on.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I mean.
You're
I've got
supposed to.
this. Yeah, that's a problem that we talk about a lot. Like, somebody was talking about how they want to get better at interviewing people. And I was like, I actually have interviewed people in a past life. That was one of the things that I did
I
a
still get
lot.
emails from that company.
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't. That's kind of funny, isn't it?
They remind me when it's the Safety Cowboy's birthday because I think he and I were the only ones of your friends who signed up for accounts on that platform.
Yeah, thank you for signing up for accounts on that platform, by the way, Ben. Um, as an example, one of the things the platform did, I know that you remember this, was that they made it so that by default you got emailed every single time anybody posted anything on the platform.
Yeah,
And we
that's awesome.
suggested, hey, maybe don't do that.
That
And they
was, I
said, well,
mean,
no, this drives engagement, is
yeah,
is how
that
they said it.
that was the thing back in the day, back in the early days of like say Facebook. If somebody liked one of your posts or did anything to interact with your account, you got emailed. Like by default, you got emailed.
Yep, exactly.
If I scroll
Uh,
back through
but
enough,
this is the
through
other
like
thing. It's
15 years of my email, it'll just be all notifications from Facebook.
But that's not just when you posted something. If Rick posted something, you get something. If Chris posted something, you would get something. If
Yeah.
someone who you weren't even following posted something, you would get something. That's
That's a
the
bit
that's a
much.
big problem. Mhm.
Something happened on this platform. You should know about it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's I've got it finally set up, and I think it's good. I like what's happening. Um,
There are a number of like if you're like truly interested in like learning how to play properly, like one of the things that I realized was a thing was that inside my VR headset there are like instructional games to learn how to play either piano or guitar, maybe drums, I don't know. But like I'm
yeah,
wondering,
looking,
because I've always wanted to like because my guitar is like a set piece in my apartment, right?
yeah,
Every once in a while when I'm sitting watching TV, I'll just pick it up and I'll strum like the four chords that I know. But every once in a while I get the bug to like maybe I should like really seriously pick this up. But I don't want to, I don't have time to go to guitar lessons or anything like that. But if
yeah.
I can spend an hour inside VR and learn how to play that way, um,
For those of you not watching the feed, when Ben said, if you want to learn how to play the right way, the look that I gave him was not contrived. It was a look of confusion and not, I wouldn't say disgust, but like a, what? Um, which shows you kind of the problems that I'm dealing with there. Ben, I'm looking at this and it seems like I'm blowing out a lot more than I normally do. I'm going to try to talk a little bit softer.
or
But
maybe
then
you
again,
turn down your input.
Uh, how do I do? Well, should I do it now? Probably not,
Is your
because now
what's being recorded? Is it the microphone on your headphones?
no, it's another microphone that I've got over here. Over
Ah,
here.
and it doesn't have a little knobby knob on it with numbers on it,
Well, see, here's the thing. I'd have to touch it, and I'm worried about
and
changing the placement of where it's at right now.
it does not like being touched.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, it's something that I'll look up. You're trying to.
I'm trying to figure out what Gene Hackman movie I should watch tonight.
Oh, hey, I've got one for you. Heist. Did you ever see
Heist.
Heist?
I've never seen Heist.
Oh, you should see it, because Heist is not only is Gene Hackman in it, but so is Ricky Jay, who is also, passed away, but someone that we
I
liked.
Catherine was just
Magician Ricky Jay.
Catherine was just in the office here right before I got on with you, and we watched her favorite one of her favorite Gene Hackman movies is Heartbreakers. It also has Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Love Hewitt. And we
Hmm.
looked at the IMDb page, and Ricky Jay's in that movie too.
Wow. Okay. Also, Delroy Lindo is in Heist. And he gives a
Delroy Lindo
really,
is not in
really
Heartbreakers.
he gives a really great monologue. Um,
He
I
gives good
want to
monologue.
say I want to say that Sam Rockwell's in it as well, but it may not be Sam Rockwell. It's probably somebody
You know,
else.
I said I'm trying to figure out. I already know what movie I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch The French Connection tonight because I have it
Oh
on
yeah,
DVD and like I bought, I bought like the deluxe collected 2 disc special DVD of The French Connection, and I watched it once like the day I bought it, and then never again. So maybe today
I believe I have that too.
I'll explore all of the special features and oh, maybe Gene
Did
Hackman has an
you
audio commentary track on it.
did you pick your feet in Poughkeepsie?
Do
You
you
went to
ever pick your
Poughkeepsie.
feet in Poughkeepsie?
Okay. Ah, see, you know it better than I do. That's great. I'm
Poughkeepsie, Poughkeepsie, Poughkeepsie.
you sat at the end of the bed and you picked your feet or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Popeye Doyle.
Popeye Doyle. But I just want to say Heist is a really it's a good movie. Heist is this movie where um it's about con men and
Yeah,
thieves and all that.
thievery.
It's David Mamet wrote the screenplay. He might have directed
So
it,
a lot of
in fact.
swear words in it.
Yeah.
Or the original 1977 Superman,
Um
Gene
I would
Hackman's Lex
do
Luthor.
I would either do Heist or The Conversation. The Conversation's another good one. Have you ever seen The Conversation, Ben?
I've not seen The Conversation, but I'm gonna have to brush up on my Hackman verse because I've
Get
also
the
never
guy
seen.
with synesthesia to watch The Conversation.
I've also
Um,
never seen Mississippi Burning, and I watched a clip from that today, so that looks like an interesting film.
oh, hey,
You know, what with our country run by racists and everything.
yeah, yeah. Um, you know how every once in a while, like I did that whole breakdown that one time about the the oh God, I can't even I've got a block. I can't even say their name now. The people from the East India Company. The East India Company and the Boston Tea Party. Do you remember that conversation?
A conversation you and I had?
Yeah. The East India Company had the most the tea in the Boston Tea Party was the East India Company. East India Company had it insured through Lloyd's of London,
Oh, so maybe the Boston Tea Party was like a false flag operation to collect
and
on the insurance money.
they tried to get the money back, or they tried to get at least one of their crates back. I remember, um, but also just weird stuff about like Lloyd's of London eventually moved into the old East India Trading Company's offices, and our American flag, the flag that we have now, is very close to the East India flag. Uh,
Are you telling me that Betsy
and
Ross stole the design?
Well, Benjamin Franklin, uh, suggested it because the East India he suggested the United States should operate like the East India Company, where we're still under British rule, quote unquote, but we're independent of Great Britain.
Yeah.
Um, and then Cromwell, I believe it's Cromwell. If he's the guy
Was in Star Trek First Contact? Oh wait, that's in a different
who was the
Conwell.
guy who was the guy who surrendered to George Washington?
I
Was
can
it
look it up.
Cromwell?
My history teacher is
Yeah.
not liking me very much right now.
the the guy who surrendered to George Washington became the governor of India right after that. So it's just I don't know. There's a lot of tying between those things. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because I have a new not a new. This
Cornwallis.
is actually Cornwallis. Yeah, Cornwallis became governor of India. And if I have that wrong, folks, it's because we keep it wrong here. I'm not looking anything up. I'm trying to do it
Except I very
by
obviously
memory.
looked that up.
Um, so so here's the thing that. Actually, this is the thing that got me my discharge from the Air Force. Not really. I mean, there were a couple of other things going on, but one of the things was that I shared with them my ideas about um, the United States and Nazism, which I don't know if I've ever talked about on the podcast before. This is not my current belief. This is a belief that I held at the time, although
Okay.
it still kind of holds water. Are you familiar with Operation Paperclip?
Maybe I was at one point, but I cannot recall what it
Okay,
is at the moment.
probably when we were hanging out, I probably talked about it a lot. So, all right, just a little bit of background. The United States has a lot of German immigrants in it. This doesn't have anything to do with Operation Paperclip. This is just background. So we've got a lot of German immigrants. The the town where my adopted father moved to um, when I was in second grade, all the town records, all the church records, everything in the town was in German until World War II started, and then they switched to English.
This is a pre-war German immigration, large German
Yeah,
immigration
pre-war.
town. Okay.
And the United States was kind of on the fence about World War II. Like, I mean, World War One and two, I guess, sort of. Like, are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it, etc.
Yeah.
And then eventually we did. Well, in Operation Paperclip after World War II, we brought over Germans from Germany to work for us. Werner von Braun
Yeah.
is the most famous for NASA, but there are other people as well, and not just people in science, but also people in intelligence, in spycraft, and things like that. And what do we see happening around the 1950s? A lot of what I would call social engineering. The nuclear family. Father comes home from work. All the different newsreels that we have about this is what a family is and this is what a family does. A lot of
She just loves her new automatic kitchen.
right, and a lot of anti-communist stuff. Uh, which famously, the Nazis also were very anti-communist. So all this stuff happening, right, around the time of the 1950s. Now in the 70s, right, I was adopted uh, and adopted through the Lutheran Missouri Synod, which is a religious organization that promotes Lutheranism, which is, of course, from German uh, immigrants bringing it over. Um, and I was put into a parochial school that taught Lutheran doctrine as well as seemed to me at the time like a prisoner of war camp. It was run
The actual like school
uh,
grounds?
like it felt very oppressive to me. I was always having trouble. They used tactics like turning kids against each other and doing a whole bunch of like crazy, in my opinion, social experiments. Um, but not really experiments, just messing with us
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Corporal punishment was still a thing. Uh, I would get hit if I wasn't behaving properly, et cetera, et cetera. So I had this bad connotation with them and with Germany in general because of the way that I was being treated there. And so by the time that I got to the Air Force, I was convinced, and I explained this to folks that were there, that I thought that I was a sleeper agent programmed by uh, Nazis who got brought into the United States and started running these schools. Uh, and I
And you're
couldn't
telling me that
trust,
got you kicked out of the Air Force.
and I couldn't trust that I wasn't hypnotized to do stuff for them.
The
It did
Manchurian
not.
staff sergeant.
It did not get me. Oh, I wasn't even staff sergeant. I was airman first class.
I don't know
Was
the
the
ranks
highest
at
rank
all.
that I
That was the
got.
first thing I thought of.
Um, well, staff sergeant is, it's not that much higher. So it's something that I could have maybe achieved had I been in there longer. But the main thing was this, of course. That wasn't necessarily what got me kicked out, but it was something that got their attention
It's put in your file at
wh-
least.
when it came to, hey, maybe this guy isn't all there, which is kind of how I was discharged. Now
Yeah.
I know, after being, studied and tested and all that, that most
Studied.
likely all of this stuff is, OCD, ADHD, and uh, autism spectrum disorder, kind of a cocktail of all those things. As we said before,
Yummy, expensive cocktail.
I am me. It's just what we use to explain it to people changes. It seems like. So yeah, when the criteria changes, all of a sudden you don't have the disorder anymore, which is
So
nice.
Operation Paperclip.
So Operation Paperclip is the bringing of German soldiers, or
Yeah,
not German soldiers,
I
German
have heard
folks.
that, and it might have been because of like an episode of the X-Files or something,
Yeah, I'm sure that that got brought up,
or
but it's
or
one
I
of those
watched a
things.
documentary about von Braun or the space race
Yeah.
in the 60s.
So I got out of the Air Force in 1996, and then I went to a lot of therapy, and eventually I came to understand, you know, there aren't Nazis in the government. It's just, or if there are, they've been assimilated. There's that whole thing about
My,
how
how 30 years have changed.
Nazis got their ideas about how to treat Jews from the United States and their Jim Crow laws. Some of
Mhm.
that suggested. So I'm all better, right? I'm all better. I'm putting air quotes in. And
And taking a
then,
drink from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thermos.
yeah, and then Elon Musk goes and does the whole salute thing, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, that's a little crazy. And then Steve Bannon does it, and it's like, well, that's Steve Bannon, okay. Um, but it is this thing of, have they just been hiding, Ben, until they're okay to come out again?
I think they've
And
always
all
been
this.
hiding. It's just being more normalized these days.
Oh no, but I mean, people trained by the ex-German
Oh.
folks, people brought up in the, like,
The
is
sleeper
there is
agents are
there
waking up. Is that what you're telling me?
are there actually people in the United States government who couldn't wait, who actually have a through line all the way back to the SS, people who came over from Operation Paperclip.
Probably
Did they
not,
set up
but
and
you never know these days, do
and
you?
and well, and this is the thing, is that in the end doesn't matter. In the end doesn't matter what the through line is, if it's actually happening. Does it
Yeah.
really make a difference? Um, let's see. So we know now something that I already knew, and I think you might have also, that the Department of Energy is, you know, also the Department of Nukes, basically, and that
Yeah.
you don't want to get rid of those guys. Did we talk about this already?
We may have brought
Last
it
time?
up last week where like because somebody didn't know what they did, those people were fired and they're having
Yeah.
a hard time finding them.
Oh, so I remember what I wanted to talk about. Do you remember a news story about how Fitbit was responsible for the outing of the locations of some secret military bases?
I don't remember this now.
Okay, so this is fun with data, right? This is stuff that happens. People have Fitbits, and one of the things Fitbits do, social media wise, is they say this is where you ran. You ran here.
Yeah.
And people, if they want to, can access that and look and see where their friends ran or whatever. Someone took a lot of data for military people, a lot of Fitbit data, and collated it together and came up with these areas that people were running around. And they figured out that those areas that the people were running around were bases that weren't, you know, officially on maps. Basically, hey, why are these 50 people from the army all running around this particular area, right?
Right.
So that's just an example. When you're doing any sort of security stuff, like this is a good example also. Um, let's say that you've got phones tapped for a couple of people in the military, right? And you and they're not military phones, they're home phones, right? Home phones of the people that they have off base, right? One guy calls his wife and says, "Hey,
Sure, it's
I got to
perfectly
work
legal.
late." Yeah. Well, depending on which state you're in. Hey, I gotta stay late. It turns out that we're setting up uh 50 extra chairs in the conference room tomorrow because there's this big conference happening. And this other person says, "Hey, just so you know, honey, I'm going to be a little bit late because I have to get 50 extra plates for meals." And then another person calls and says, "Hey, honey, I'm going to be a little late. We got to move some of the vehicles around because there are going to be some people coming in from Florida, right?" So all of a sudden, you know that 50 people from Florida are going to be coming to this certain base at this time, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have in Florida somebody who has called his wife and says, "Hey, honey, it looks like you're going to have to cancel that vacation. We're going to be booked up in July. Something big is happening. I can't tell you what, you know." So then all of a sudden, okay, these 50 people are going to go from Florida to this place, and they're all going to be discussing something big that's happening in July. And it goes like that for a while, right? The reason I bring it up is because what you used to do is you used to listen to that and figure stuff out. Now, what you do is you take every single tweet that people have made in a certain area and you analyze it all and you figure out exactly what's going on based on all the different tweets, right? You feed it into a generative AI model, which, by the way, although, and I still agree with my friends who do not like AI, that generative AI is, not true AI, quote unquote, but it's able to, like, as an example, and if you're listening to this and you're a friend of mine and you hate generative AI, please don't get mad at me for doing this. But it was able to tell me the name of two different movies that I had forgotten. That all that I could remember was a basic thing of the plot and the name of a person that was in it, and it found those for me. So it's not just fancy autocomplete. It can actually, like, find something that I couldn't find myself, as an example. So it does have some uses. So the idea is that you feed all of this information in, and then it comes up with, you know, we've noted that it looks like there's going to be a large thing happening in this place, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. All of that to be said, what then going to guess the news? What thing is similar to what I just described to you, but people weren't upset about that aspect of it because they didn't really think about what was happening in that term.
Once again, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so people got an email, and there was a tweet as well that
Oh,
said, "Hey,
yeah.
give me five
Okay.
bullet points about what you do."
Now I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so so the thing that people were concerned about is they said, well, I have uh, a security clearance. I work on classified stuff. I can't talk about what
Well,
it is I do.
see that email. So there's a lot of confusion around this email and around what
Yeah.
the context tweet said, because the email
Hmm.
said, sent to all federal employees, all like 2.5 million
Yeah.
federal employees. The email said, please supply 5 items you accomplished in the last week. Do not include classified items,
Uh-huh.
and please reply to this email. It's like hr@opm.gov or something like that, by 11:59 p.m. Monday night. This tweet was
Yeah.
sent on, or this email was sent on Saturday. Elon then tweeted saying anybody who didn't reply, that is considered their letter of resignation.
Yeah.
This was not in the email, that part. So if these
Yep.
federal employees read the email and said, "Well, I'm not gonna fucking do that," but they don't follow Elon on Twitter, so and people are saying that's,
Well,
resigning from a federal office is a larger
yeah.
apparatus than just not replying to an email. And then other department heads were saying, like, in fact, Kash Patel, head of the FBI, was like, don't reply to this.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the reason why. This is why Patel probably said that. The idea was that this would be done fed into an AI thing,
Yeah,
and would say to you, or would explain to the people whether or not your job was essential. That was the idea.
yeah.
So how do you do that, right? That's number one. How do you make sure that this AI thing isn't going to say, "Oh, well, you're not essential." What do you put in those 5 bullet points that say that? I was suggesting that if somebody would do that, they would say, prevented catastrophic failure of blank, etc., just to
I
explain.
I
But
safeguard the U.S.'s nuclear weapons stockpile.
exactly. But here's the thing. The idea about don't include any classified information. The thing that Patel most likely knows, that you would think that Musk would know as well, and probably does, anyone who gets those 5 bullet points from you, right? Like, you don't have classified information, probably nothing's going to happen, right? You're not going to know anything from Ben specifically.
Right.
But if you get it from Ben and a million of Ben's coworkers, all of a sudden you have a map of data points about what every single one of those people is working on. And just like I was saying about the, hey, honey, you got to make sure to, cancel the vacation because we're going to be staying here to do something in July.
Yeah.
That those 5 bullet points and everybody else's 5 bullet points can get you a really interesting map about what it is the United States government is doing.
As long as it's
And
able to weed through all the noise of people who are spamming this email address with their
right.
other 5 things that they do in their non-governmental job, or
So
the like
that is
the
yeah.
screenplay to A Bug's Life or whatever.
So that is an example of if they're, I was gonna say if they're smart, but if they, you know, if they're doing it right, the people that are responding with the 5 bullet points, right? You're only going to count the ones that come from, .gov email addresses. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, um, if they aren't using secure communications for this, if they aren't encrypting these bullet points, oh my gosh.
Well, and also
Not only,
that brings up another question. Are the .gov servers not already encrypted in some way?
okay, I'm just going to speak in hypotheticals, Ben. If I'm sending something to you, right, from a government email address, theoretically, I have the option when I'm sending the email to encrypt it or not encrypt it. That is my choice as a person using that email address. So it's not really the servers necessarily um, that you
I
need to worry about. You
again,
need to worry about, yeah.
never worked in a government job, but if you're
Oh,
a
I'm not saying
person
I have been.
who, no, I'm saying I never have, but
Right.
if you, but I'm assuming again, that if you are a person who deals in sensitive information like that, you are issued a laptop or a computer that has all those safeguards locked down. You are taught how to send a safe, encrypted, secure email to other departments, to a supervisor, to a department head. This doesn't seem like something that, do you want this email to be encrypted? Check this box before you send kind of situation. Again,
Depending
that's
on
kind of like
here,
pie in the sky, right? That's kind of like that's what I'm assuming happens because I guess that's kind of what I hope happens.
here's what I'll say.
And that a lot of these .gov emails aren't just like Gmail accounts.
Well, this is my question, right? Um, all right. So I'm just giving you again. I'm talking hypotheticals here, right? You, Ben Lawrence, work at
How dare you give my
Ben
full
at
name, sir?
whatever.gov, right?
Yeah.
And I am Paul at whatever.gov. You send me an email. Your email to me can be encrypted or it could not be encrypted, depending on the content of the email. You get to decide, and you have protocols that you've been given about whether or not to send it encrypted or not encrypted, right?
Why do
This
I
is,
have
I'm,
to?
I'm just saying,
But in this hypothetical, I'm wondering why I decide if it's encrypted or not. I would just assume, hypothetically, everything is.
but that is not correct. And the reason is because sometimes you'll be using that email to communicate with people that are not part of that group. Um, how would I say it? So like let's say for instance you Ben Lawrence are working at your government, off of your government laptop, and there's a guy from Weed Eaters Plus who writes you from, you know, George at Weed Eaters Plus and says, "Hey, are we still gonna make this, 12 o'clock appointment to do this weed eating thing at your base?" If you were to reply to him with an encrypted email, he would not be able to decrypt it, and he wouldn't be able to read the email. So you have to be able to send unencrypted emails. But here's the thing.
Again,
Here's the thing.
how is this your choice? Aren't isn't the isn't aren't the servers smart enough to know to send it encrypted if it's going to another .gov email address versus if it's going to weedeatersplus.com?
Um, so there are many different levels of
Of we're talking about this stuff
security
we
and
know nothing about.
classifications. So yeah, what I would say is this. Um, there are there are people who will be answering this who will not have the ability to encrypt what they're sending to a level that would safeguard against someone who has access to their account. How do I say it? In a perfect world, yes, but no. Yes, but no. There are. I'll just give you one example, and this is something that's already known. I'm not breaking any laws by saying this. There is a um, cache of personal information about people who applied for security clearances that was stolen back in like what 2000, like 2013 or 14 or something like that. Like so the thing that makes sure that you have a security, the information that you have that you give them to say I need a security clearance, someone took all that. The people that are safeguarding the entry into this security theater, they themselves were hacked. So what does anything mean? Who
And
knows?
they probably got fired right now because so many federal employees are getting laid off. So it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, yay, 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 hooray, all of that. I I am understanding as far as I understand, like I think it's next week. The people that took the job or took the payout
Yeah.
answered the fork of the road email. I think a lot of them are no longer going to be at work starting next week.
I mean, yeah, that's also the thing because there's just been so much confusion because, yeah, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I'll just, have my job until September and then collect retirement and I'm taking this deal. Oh, now I'm fired. Good.
Well, the firing part I don't know about. But what I do know is that the basic idea is, you know how in I want to say it's Pulp Fiction, uh, Vic Vega gets out of jail and then he has a job, but he doesn't have to show up to it. Like
Yeah.
that's basically what is happening to a lot of these folks. They have a job until September. They're still working,
Yeah.
but they are not, they're going to be on administrative leave basically. They're not doing anything, even though they're still on the books, which is crazy if you think about it. Fraud, waste, and abuse and all that. You're paying
You know,
people to do nothing.
I there was this thing that where like the Department of Government Efficiency had this whole chart where where they bragged about how much money they were saving, right? And
Hmm.
when people started looking into the numbers, they saw that something that would like they said they saved like I don't know, $8 billion, but it turned out it was only $8 million.
Yeah, there was one thing
And
where,
I'm kind of
like,
wondering if when all of this is said and done, and when you calculate like the amount of payouts that farmers are going to need, and the amount of money that is spent to cover for these rapid firings, if Doge isn't going to cost more money than it saves.
oh yeah, that's something that I think is really a possibility. The example that somebody gave me was that there was a contract that was like, I'm making this up. These are numbers that are made up, but it was something like this. Contract was 2 million. They canceled the contract, so they said that they saved $2 million, but they actually had already, paid into that contract. The government had already paid into that contract, and so the actual savings is like 500,000
Yeah,
because it's how much left that they were going to pay out onto that contract. Things like that.
yeah.
It sounds like. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's more that we can talk about
It's
on
all
the
pretty
after
ridiculous.
podcast piece. And again, if you want to listen to the after podcast, go ahead and join the Patreon that doesn't exist. And if it does exist, there are problems. Um,
Paul and I are
but
no
it may
longer
exist.
around.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen. So, Ben, how do we have any news or information from our friends in the other places?
No, there's been no. No engagement for today's show, unsurprisingly,
Um,
because we don't have any.
let's. So you and I, of course, did our performance art. This is ostensibly a podcast about uh
It's our
our
longest running piece.
yes, it is our longest running piece. Wow, is it almost has it been going on for 10 years now?
We are on episode 470.
Yeah. So that's something, I gotta say. Um, so the thing that I'm wondering about is Annex Theater in general. Still operating, still doing shows. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is not really juicy gossip or anything like that, but is there not going to be a new artistic director chosen soon? Am I right on that?
Well, you're not wrong in that the one needs to be chosen soon.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But
Um,
the question is, will one be chosen? Because Annex is currently
mm,
without an artistic director.
oh, okay, I see.
So the search is on. How soon this
Gotcha.
happens, and if a qualified candidate or candidates are found, that's that'll need to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very exciting. Maybe. Could be exciting for someone somewhere.
Somebody somewhere. That's
Mike
a
Tom
great show
returns.
on HBO. Check it out.
Um, yeah, I don't have HBO anymore, Ben. Is it real though? Is that a real? No,
Yeah,
no.
Somebody Somewhere is a good show. It's an actual show.
Somebody
It's one of
somewhere
those.
is it showing? Oh, what's it about?
It's about this small town community focus around this woman who suffered a loss and has moved back to town to take care of things and how she's able to navigate the world. And it's one of those like it's not like there's no high drama, there's no high action, there's comedy, but there's emotion with it. Like if it's one of those shows where like if you want to cry at the end of an episode, you watch one of these shows.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So, I've been watching Mythic Quest. Dude, was it you that told me about it?
Probably because I haven't seen the latest season though.
Yeah, I
I
started
know like
watching
season like 4 just came out.
I like binged it. I watched all of it just all at once over a weekend. Um, and some days into the weekend. It was a long weekend, is what I'm saying. I took
I
a
started last night. I started watching Monarch. Have you seen Monarch?
Monarch. Oh, the Godzilla thing.
Yeah, Legacy
Uh,
of it has Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt Russell playing
yep.
basically the same character.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah.
fun. I watched some of it. I didn't get into it as much, so I stopped watching it. And now I don't think I have. What's it on? I don't think I have it
It's on
anymore.
Apple TV Plus.
Oh wait, Apple TV Plus. I do have that. So, huh? Maybe I'll take another
It's
look.
funny, like I can't remember who I was talking to, but like somebody was saying Apple TV Plus is where good shows go to die in obscurity. They
Yeah,
got a really good lineup, and like it feels like not a lot of people talk about these shows.
yeah. It is. It isn't. It does cost a lot to join it. That might be part of it. Oh, I just saw something. Was it on Netflix? I want to say it was on Netflix. And I kept watching it, going, "This is better than it should be." It was to catch a killer.
It's like
Um,
like a true crime docuseries.
no, it's a movie about there's this mass murderer in Baltimore,
Okay.
and the FBI is trying to catch him and enlist the help of a Baltimore police officer. And it
McNulty.
no, no, but it it is interesting. Like I'm watching it, going, this is better than it should be. I wonder if this is like a backdoor pilot for
For The
a
Wire.
new series of The Wire, but it's not, obviously. But the guy who directed it and wrote he and somebody else wrote it, is from Argentina,
Okay.
and apparently his best uh, work was a TV show called The Pretenders, but it's an Argentinian title, so it's like the simulators or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and they're people who do you remember the Nathan For You thing, the audition or not the audition, the rehearsal where he like let people rehearse talking to someone and then actually doing it.
Yeah, I actually did see that.
So it's not exactly like here's the thing. The problem is I haven't been able to watch it, right? I can't find it anywhere. But it's a really intriguing idea of like they simulate situations for their clients. And
Yeah,
it sounds a little bit like theater, right? In a way.
for sure.
Um, but the only thing I've been able to find, and I haven't, um, is like two seasons of a Mexican remake of it that's apparently available on Amazon Prime, but I wasn't able to watch it on my phone, so I don't know if it's actually going to be available on the app either. So it's too bad, though. I mean, this is one of those things that I do kind of. It's not a post scarcity world. It would be a post. I don't know how to call it, post region world, whatever. It's really dumb sometimes to me that we can't watch a certain show because of the country that we're in,
Yeah.
like the formatting, whatever.
Get yourself a VPN.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard about them. I understand them. But I like my government agent to know what porn I'm watching. Um, that
I
would be
want that person to
interesting.
have an interesting day at work.
Yeah, exactly. Um, there is there is a thing that it's not. You might be a redneck, but it is one of those things that it's a thing that I want to do on stage, just so I can look out and check and see who reacts, which is all right, men in the audience, when was the first time you had to put on reading glasses to look at porn and then see who reacts? Because there will be someone out there who
Will
does
be
it.
in a bunch of like wives or girlfriends looking at their partners to
Looking at
see
their
what their
partner. Yeah,
reaction is.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it would be funny. But I don't know. I watch stand-ups, I don't do stand-up. That I know of. That was still one of the
Although
crazy things
sometimes I wake up in
in
the morning and I still have like I'm still standing in front of a brick wall. Like, how did I get here?
Do you remember that? We were talking about this, I think, at one time. At Lowell Work, they said that I had to say that I was a stand-up comedian because no one would understand what it was that you and I were doing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, and so but then I realized we do have Slap That Ass. Uh, Troy recorded it and posted it on YouTube. It's still on there. So technically, I do have stand-up that I've done. It would be nice to do it really sedately, like on the 50th anniversary, just doing the same thing but not doing the voice at all
The 50th anniversary
of Slap That Ass
of
whenever,
Slap That Ass.
I'm like 79 or however old.
I
Uh,
I've never done stand up either, but I have hosted a number of spin the bottles, and so sometimes that feels like stand up, where like I'm trying to kill
yeah,
time and be entertaining at the same time.
yeah. Bruce Hall made it look easy.
There's
I
I
remember.
never I, I never did jokes though. I never.
Oh, I do
Oh,
want
no,
to
yeah.
say, um,
Quips is what I did.
I,
Quips.
and I don't know why I need to do this, but I do. Um, I want to say that I've never been more humbled in my life than when we were doing the auction.
Oh
It
my
was an
God.
auction that we ended up doing, and just like how much the spin the bottle audiences spoiled us. Where it's like, why aren't you loving everything that we're doing
It's
right now? I don't get it.
it was I'm not gonna say we were set up to fail on that
Yeah.
thing. For anybody, we like Paul and I hosted a an event and auction, a cabaret and auction for a local theater company, and the unfortunate thing was during the auction, like the audience, like it took place in a venue that sat like 150 maybe, and there was probably 25, 30 people in the audience, and they were not in the mood to spend money.
Nope. Yeah. And so that was, yeah.
Flailing, literally flailing on stage.
Yep, yep, yep. Which though made it all the better when we did Bumbershoot a few years later and killed.
We did.
That was really nice. That was really nice. That felt really good. And then I left
Yeah,
almost
almost immediately.
almost
Like
immediately.
we did
Yeah.
one more spin the bottle, and then you drove out of town the next morning.
And really, um, that's kind of how I want to go out, except for then make it last you know, even longer. We have to do the podcast for at least as long as we did everything else, if not longer. Basically until one of us dies, uh, or the internet goes away. That that's something. If the internet goes away, I didn't even think about that, but it could. They've proven that you can do it in other countries now. And that's something that might happen.
What, live without the internet?
Well, they're
Or do
like you can't
podcasts with?
stop the internet,
Yeah.
um, but you might be able to. You might be able to. Other people have done it. You might not be able to stop it for everybody, but you can stop it for a good majority of the United States populace. Oh, that's going to be something. Hey, man, just
Eh.
give me access. Just can I?
You're
It'll
gonna
be
have to
weird.
buy credits for it's gonna go back to like internet cafes where you bought time on the
Yeah,
internet.
you buy time. Broadcast television comes back.
I remember this
Uh, you
story
know,
where some guy, I can't remember where he lived, but some rural town, and he called, probably Comcast or somebody was like, "How much would it cost to get, to bring the internet to my house?" And they quoted like some absurd number, like 20 grand to like bring the copper into his house for so he can get connected to the ISP. And he's like, "Fine, I'll make my own ISP with hookers and booze."
yeah. Um,
And apparently he
so
did. That's
the
how this sort of became a thing. He made his own ISP and like hooked up his neighborhood.
well, I know that there was a guy who ran into that problem in Washington State. He was a Microsoft guy who built a compound and didn't check to see if he could get internet at his compound, and he couldn't.
Do
Uh,
do do do.
okay, so hey, speaking about that, we're done, Ben. It's another podcast in the bag
Ending
because
on the
I once
sad
again
trombone from the Price is Right.
again started my whole thing early so that people got a lot of me saying, "Oh no, I'm calling Ben. Wait, hold on, he can't hear me," etc. So that should be good. Um, Other than that, I think
All right.
we're
Well, with
gonna
that,
have to
Paul,
talk next time, Ben.
I'll see you next week. I bid you a
All right.
fine keep it wrong and how's that happening?
Keep it wrong. How's it
Which is
happening,
kind
Ben?
Which
Always a
basically
pleasure.
I'm saying goodbye and hello in that order.
Exactly. All right. Talk to you more later, Ben.